As 2022 comes to a close, a brand new list is revealing the wokest companies of the year. Both Twitter and the NBA making the cut, with companies like Disney and BlackRock earning the title for the second year in a row.
Ashley Rindsberg is the author of The Great Lady Wings. He joins us now. Ashley, good morning to you. What do you make of these award winners, if you will?
I think it's a dubious distinction at best, but it's great to see that someone is keeping track of this stuff, because what we're seeing is that these giant companies whose real duty should be to their customers and their shareholders are now pandering to a tiny group of progressive activists and the media that's backing them up and amplifying their message. And what we're seeing is the effect for both shareholders and customers is terrible. Disney's a great example of that, and so is the NBA.
How much of the progressive activists play a role in this as well?
That's the whole game here. I mean, what they do is they create a lot of noise, or they do something damaging or disruptive, like emptying milk in a supermarket or damaging a Van Gogh painting or whatever it will be. And then the media takes that and amplifies it to millions of people and embarrasses these companies. So these companies live in fear of a tiny, tiny group of activists who are doing these kinds of stunts. And there's really no pushback from the other side. So for these giant companies, all the risk is on one side. It's on the side of offending a group of a few thousand people at most who really care about this stuff, have invested their whole ideology and their whole identity in these real kind of extreme leftist ideas, and they're willing to go to jail for it. So the companies just kind of roll over and go with the flow because it's cheaper for them at the end of the day than having a huge media campaign against them and how evil they are.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, Ashley. And it really does seem like in a lot of these situations, like particularly Disney, the CEOs, the people at the top aren't as reactionary. They want to go one way, but then they cave to like 22 and 23-year-old employees. And we saw that play out firsthand with the parental rights and education law in Florida.
That's right. It's these activists can make a lot of noise. They can do it real fast. They can organize quickly. And at the other side of it, they've within the companies, we also have this huge sprawling HR structure, human resources, that's hiring people of like-minded ideas. They're kind of pulling from the activist group because they're supporting ESG, environmental, social, and governance policies that are designed to push the companies to the left. So both from within and from without, you've got a tremendous amount of pressure. And at the end of the day, the CEO, however bold or brave that person might be, that's only one person. And they really can't resist that much pressure and the risk of having a full-blown media campaign waged against them for some minor infraction that a group of, like you said, 22-year-olds have decided is the worst thing ever to happen in history. So they'll just say, you know what, let's just take the opposite path. Get along to go, or go along to get along. And that's exactly what's happened. But what happens with companies is that they continue to optimize and optimize and optimize to the point that they actually begin to adopt these ideas as if they really care about them. Mm-hmm. Of course they don't, but now it feels as if they do.
Yeah, and it's not that many of them either. It's just the ones that are picked up by the media. We got to get to this, though. The media is gushing over VP Harris in the New Year-end interviews. One Washington Post op-ed says she had an excellent year, writing Harris has ably fulfilled the role Biden chose her to perform. The nation's first black female and first South Asian vice president has also had to contend with the negative reactions and low expectations that come with shattering ossified notions of who should be in the position. So are they talking about the same VP who couldn't keep her staff? I mean, it was like a rotating door there for a while.
They are talking about her, and they're talking about her really with DNC talking points in their hand. It's kind of like a readout, the press release, which, I guess it's okay, fair enough. But I think what bothers a lot of us is the hypocrisy, because you see that other firsts, like Melania Trump, the first immigrant first lady, or others across the board, Nikki Haley, one of the first Indian Americans or American of Indian descent to hold the role of UN ambassador. And we don't have this whole first fanfare. We have silence because it's not about the firsts. It's not about the job that they're doing, how good or bad. It's just about the politics. It's just about the Democratic politics. And if they can score points because VP Harris, Kamala Harris is this or that, or first African American, whatever it might be, it's great for them in that moment, but they really don't care about that issue. What they really care about are their core issues, abortion, gun rights, et cetera.
Right.
And if Kamala Harris were to come out tomorrow and say, you know what, I've got some hesitations about abortion or gun rights or whatever it might be that isn't part of the media ideology, she would be pilloried tomorrow.
Right. You can only break the glass ceiling if you have a D next to your name. I think we've learned that over the years. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you.